Oh boy, I gotta tell you, this has put me in good spirits. So I saw two headlines side by side, and the first had to do with Bo Nickal, right? I enjoy seeing Bo Nickal hype things, and congratulations to Bo, by the way. His wife is pregnant. Bo was on the Joe Rogan program, and Bo had told Joe that he is working with ChatGTP to come up with an AI-influenced game plan for his next fight, and he says it's given me really good advice. Now, if ChatGTP was giving out sponsorships or anything like this, we could quickly dismiss it. And if this was any other athlete that looked to troll and say really, really nerdy things in exchange for attention, we could dismiss it. But it's Bo, and I felt like he was just telling us the truth. He turned to ChatGTP, and I've heard other things over the years. Dwayne Ludwig was one of the most successful coaches. I want to say it was like 14 in a row. 14 of his athletes in a row. Oh, and by the way, one of them was a TJ Dillashaw against Henan Brow World Championship along the way. It's just incredible. People start picking his brain. Coach Ludwig, what is so different about you? And he said that he could go to another dimension through smoking of marijuana, and that he would watch fights and break them down while in that dimension. It was just one of the things. I store that away. Because when you come to ChatGTP and AI, right? I mean, it's like if you believe that it's true, then it is. That's a really true expression within sport. If it gives you confidence and you believe that it's true, it is. Okay. At the same time that I'm reading that, I read that Conor is in Dubai and he's going to have a meeting with the boss. They're going to get everything worked out and get this thing figured out. Talk about Conor and a return in his next fight. And there was just something about reading these two things I get because they're side by side. Like, I don't know what Bo would have typed into ChatGTP. I don't know if it was more strategies for himself to do or if that was a juxtaposition about what he generally likes to do versus what his opponent does. I mean, I don't quite have enough information. And when Conor's going to have this meeting, they're going to sit down, they're going to figure this out about his return. They're really going to put their heads together and get this thing figured out. I can't help but think, even absent of being there, that I've got a pretty idea what happened. It would have gone somewhere along the lines, right? I mean, let's start with Bo and his strategy. It would be somewhere along the lines of when they turn your music on, those speakers, walk to the cage. And before you get to the cage, and this is an important detail, you'll want to remove whatever shirt it was you were wearing and or foot attire, as those are not prohibited once you step in the actual octagon. You're then going to go to your corner. Now that's a hard one because it could be red, but it could also be blue. And a lot of that just has to do with whose music came over those speakers first. But once you get all of this stuff situated, you then basically are going to do nothing. You're going to wait. And there's a guy and he's going to wear a shark suit and he's going to be screaming into the camera and he's going to be screaming in this way. And eventually they're going to get out of there and they're going to lock the door. And then there's this other guy in there known as a referee. And that could be anybody's guess. Like, that's done by a commission. ChatGTP meetings. The great country of Dubai, no matter how expensive the steak was, you're not going to know that until almost the last minute. So you got to be flexible, okay? But then once he says go, you and your opponent who weighed in within 1 pound of the limit the previous day are going to engage in unarmed combat under the unified rules as sanctioned by the Associated Boxing Commissions. If you are not a main event, you'll be up there 3 rounds, 5 minutes apiece. Do not bite the guy. Do not touch his eyes and avoid groin stuff to the best of your ability without getting caught by the referee. But the same thing kind of goes for the same level of interest of getting Conor's next fight figured out, right? I mean, like, this is not an advancement within ingenuity or gaming. This is not seeking out a great vaccine that could solve the world. It's going to be something along the lines of you versus Michael Chandler. The most complicated thing that we're going to have to figure out. I mean, the only part that has ever been left out, because again, that's going to be contested in a 5-round atmosphere under the Unarmed Combatants Agreement of the ABC, also known as the Unified Rules of Mixed Martial Arts. But one thing that is not yet determined is at what weight those two are going to have a fight that has absolutely no relevance and or significance to any weight class. Like, it wouldn't matter if they fought at 155. It doesn't affect the rankings at 155. It wouldn't matter if they fought at 170 or 185. It will not affect in any dimension, but it is going to be a headlining event. And one of the predominant things that we're going to have to establish, aside from the weight class, which has been missing, is the other thing that has been missing, which is a date and a location. And I mean, as much as I'd love to be a fly on the wall at some of those meetings, or as much as I would love to know what ChatGTP's voice had to kick out, like, I have a feeling they're going to start the fight standing up. And I have a feeling you're not going to have anything on but short pants and a mouthpiece and some gloves that say UFC across the middle of them. And I have a feeling that when it's done, one or both of you is going to want a paycheck. And I have a feeling that when all of that is done, one out of all of you is going to get in on the pay-per-view, of which you don't like the drip, so you're going to like a number up front, and you're going to know what it is because that's the way that this game is played. And I'm not sure that we would need ChatGTP, and I'm not sure that we would need a great timeout. I'm not even sure we need to sit down over this steak dinner. It seems as though we have everything we need that we can defer to in the form of a contract which was signed years ago, except for a location and a date. But perhaps there's something else out there. Perhaps there's something more that needs to take place. I just suspect that we will just all have to remain terribly curious as to what those something else's could be.